A scraggly teenage boy ambles up to the 65-year-old proprietor of a roadside antiques shop in Coleman. "Mister, are you Rick Sykes?" "Yeah, can I talk to you a minute?" "All right, how do you rob a bank?" Reputations die hard, and Rick Sykes' story has been untold, until now. It has been 15 years since the once fearsome country band leader cum bank robber was released from Leavenworth Penitentiary in Kansas. He's raised 2 stepdaughters and owns a sign shop in addition to the antiques store. He and his wife of 15 years, Jan, live in a charming compound behind dusty, unpaved streets. He is one of Coleman's most revered citizens. But his past has taken on a life of its own. In the 60s, Rick Sykes and the Rhythm Rebels scored a handful of regional hits that made the little girls squeal, including the rockabilly ballad, "Give Me a Little," in 1965 and "Den of Sin," a year later. Sykes had his own half-hour live music program on TV station KPAR, then Abilene's CBS affiliate. His theme song was "Standing Room Only When I Die." The band was the first to attract an audience of cowpokes, rednecks, and hippies, before Willie, Waylon, and the Boys. But then in 1971, 2 members of the band were convicted of robbing 2 banks. A bank teller recognized Sykes' hands as those of a guitarist she had seen. Rick Sykes and the Rhythm Rebels' longest booking became Leavenworth. From behind bars, Sykes resigned himself to watching the Outlaw Country movement take off without him. It's rumored that when Sykes got busted, he called Jan. She had been planning to do some gardening, and Sykes, suspecting that the FBI was going to dig up their yard in search of buried loot, told her to hold off. Sure enough, the FBI came and dug up the whole yard. The next day Sykes called home, saying, "Okay, honey, go ahead and do your planting." He and Jan stroll into Ridgeon Records, a railcar-size building on their property. Resembling a Nashville booking agency 40 years ago, this is the music world Sykes left behind for prison. 100 framed publicity photos document a generation of country musicians whose careers crossed paths with Sykes's. There's Sykes with Bob Wills and on stage with Red Foley. An old photo of Willie Nelson playing lead guitar with one of his ex-old ladies. Time here is frozen in the early 60s, when Rick Sykes and the Rhythm Rebels headlined the Mayan Dude Ranch in Bandera. The Rhythm Rebels' 1968 publicity photo was used as evidence against them. It depicted the band mocking their secret avocation, posing as bandits on train tracks with guns and knives. Sykes admits of his 2 robbery convictions. "I can't say I wasn't guilty. That'd be a lie, but I can swear that I never in my life held up a bank with a gun." In San Antonio, Austin, and Houston, the band was drawing the same size crowds as George Jones and Charlie Pride. They would play The Pusher, Stardust, and San Antonio Rose, all in the same set. Jan Sykes was a go-go dancer in Abilene when she and Rick met. "I was the first country musician to ever hire go-go girls," he claims. By the late 60s, Rick had been through some bad marriages and bad record deals. His career was going to hell. "I was 35, drinking too much, eaten a few pills, amphetamines was plentiful." Rick Sykes says he can hardly believe how stupid he was back then. "I was a big ol' boy, drank and raised hell, playin' in honky-tonks, screwin' all these broads. Everybody was afraid of him," says Jan. Adds Sykes. "I was probably one of the most arrogant bastards in the world." Sykes was nailed with 50 years from the state of Texas. The Eastland County District Attorney persuaded a jury that Sykes, wearing a disguise, had pulled a gun while robbing the First State Bank of Rising Star. Off federal parole, Sykes remains on state parole until the sentence is up, in 2021. "I doubt I'm gonna make it," he says. While in prison, Sykes got his GED, studied graphic arts, and wrote hundreds of songs, which are now stored away in unopened boxes. He invented devices like the prototype, beat-o-matic, which simplifies Native American beating. He remodeled guitars. He strums a brilliant chord on one of them, a resonator dobro-like instrument. Sykes was so industrious in his solo endeavors that he was taken to the prison psychiatrist for being antisocial. B.B. King often played Kansas City, which is 30 miles from Leavenworth, and he performed at the prison free. But the guards would shake down B.B.'s band, Sykes says, tearing up the amps looking for contraband drugs. The warden was mightily impressed with a song Sykes wrote called, "From the Bottle to the Needle." Sykes didn't sing his way out of prison, like Leadbelly, but he did persuade the warden to let him build a recording studio at Leavenworth. Rick's greatest talent is taking pieces of nothing and making something out of them, says Jan Sykes, leading a tour of the main house. 5 years ago a cardiologist gave Sykes a death sentence. The doctor told him that if he ate nothing but rice, beans, and pasta, he might last 6 months. Other members of Sykes' former band haven't fared as well. Rick's brother, Bobby, who played keyboards, died of kidney failure a few years back. Finally, one wonders whether Sykes keeps a bank account these days. "My best supporter since I've been home has been the First Coleman National Bank," he says. "They loaned me money for the antique shop, the sign works shop. They back me all the way.